everyone, Maki here! Episode 2 of GQuuuuuuX featured some really exciting mobile suit battles. Last time I analyzed the combat skills of the GUNDAM pilot. This time, I will take a look at the skills of the pilot of the Zero, one GUNDAM. Some fans have speculated that the pilot of the Zero, one GUNDAM might actually be Admiral Ray. In fact, in the novel version of the first GUNDAM, Admiral appears as a pilot cadet for the Earth's Federation forces. So, the theory that Admiral is the pilot of the Zero, one GUNDAM is actually quite plausible. And with the analysis I'm going to share with you today, this theory might become even more convincing. Now, a short announcement. My channel is currently accepting support through memberships. If you're interested, you can get a name badge and comment stamps for just 99 cents a month. Alright, let's dive into the combat skills of the pilot of the Zero, one GUNDAM. Char enters the battle aboard the GUNDAM. Then, information about the enemy appears on the cockpit monitor. On the right, you can see the sun shining brightly. Admiral Ray once used the sunlight to hide the GUNDAM and approach the enemy undetected. But that kind of strategy is a high-level tactic that only someone like Admiral, who has been through countless battles and awakened as a new type, could pull off. Even Sharia Rule reacts with surprise, saying, "I was surprised." The enemy pilot was able to determine the alignment of his own position, the enemy plane, and the sun in advance. It's a brief moment, but it really highlights Admiral's incredible abilities as a fully awakened new type. The pilot of the one GUNDAM does not use the sun as a tactic to act. So does that mean that Admiral isn't the pilot of the Zero, one GUNDAM? It's too early to draw any conclusions. The tactics Admiral uses in the first GUNDAM that I just introduced happen later in the story. Let's continue our analysis. Char fires his beam rifle. Even from an extremely long distance, he takes down a Zaku with a single shot. The Zaku's pilot was probably a highly skilled test pilot, trusted enough to serve as a mock opponent against the newest weapon, the GUNDAM. Weak pilots are not suitable training partners. This scene helps us understand that dodging a beam weapon is no easy task for an ordinary human. The Zero, one GUNDAM starts its attack. The scene where the Bazooka round is loaded is a nice callback to the first GUNDAM movies. The Bazooka round explodes right in front of the white GUNDAM. Interestingly, the white GUNDAM doesn't fire its beam rifle or Balkan cannons. This suggests that the attack was pre-programmed with some kind of time detonation system. It seems that the pilot of the Zero, one GUNDAM, had analyzed the battle reports from the Side 7 incident and already knew that the GUNDAM's pilot was an ace. They probably concluded that just firing normally wouldn't be enough to score a hit. So they made a calculated move using the flash and explosion of the first round to blind the enemy, and then aiming the second round directly at him. But Char had already anticipated this tactic. Even before the light from the explosion had faded, Char was on the move. He used his beam rifle to destroy the incoming bazooka round. Admiral Ray did something similar in first GUNDAM, didn't he? The Zero, one GUNDAM then emerges from the explosion. It looks like the pilot also prepared for the possibility that the white GUNDAM would block the initial attack. The bazooka attack was aimed at the battleship Pegasus. Char says so the target wasn't me, it was the ship. However, he only realizes this after he himself dodges the attack. The move was carefully executed to make it look like Sha was the intended target. Sha's Gundam narrowly avoids the bazooka round at close range. Had it been equipped with a timed detonation system like the earlier shot, Sha might have been directly hit by the explosion. Perhaps what tipped Sha off was the fact that the round didn't explode even though it passed so close. That might have made him think, wait, was the real target really the battleship behind me? If someone other than Sha had been piloting the Gundam, he might have been relieved just to dodge the bullet, not realizing that the ship was under threat. The pilot of the Zero, one Gundam is not only technically skilled, but also has the ability to perform tactical mind games that reflect real combat experience. Sha's Gundam shoots down the bazooka rounds with its beam rifle. It's quite a surprising scene. Compared to a mobile suit, a bazooka round is extremely small. Compared to a human, it might even be slightly smaller. In First Gundam, there's a scene where Sha, outside of his mobile suit, is targeted by a beam rifle. He tells his frightened subordinates weapons made for mobile suits won't hit a tiny target, like a human. And yet in that scene, he accurately destroys all 3 fast-flying bazooka rounds. Not only that, but he does it while being chased by the enemy Zero, one Gundam. Were Sha's words in the first Gundam just nonsense, meant to calm his subordinates? Or were they meant to express that Sha's piloting skills are extremely superior? This is an issue that viewers will have to interpret in their own way. The moment he destroys the projectiles, Sha turns the Gundam's head and immediately opens fire with the head-mounted Balkan cannons. Even as he dodges the Zero, one Gundam crosses the distance. Sha had already anticipated the enemy's movements. He fires both the Balkan cannons and the beam rifle. The Zero, one Gundam begins to evade, but in the middle, it switches to defending with its shield. Sha's shots were so precise and well-timed that dodging alone wasn't enough. Then, just as the head of the Zero, one Gundam disappears behind the shield, Sha fires the beam rifle again. He confirms that the enemy's field of vision is limited before launching the beam attack. And then a surprising moment happens. The pilot of the Zero, one Gundam actually dodges the beam attack. Could that pilot be a Newtype? And it's not just a lucky move. They dodge a total of 3 beam attacks. While dodging the beams, they use the shield to block the Balkan fire. Then they throw the bazooka at Sha. It's a tactic reminiscent of Amore. And then the melee begins. The pilot shrinks the profile of the mobile suit and hides behind the shield. Not only that, but a camera is placed through a small hole in the shield to ensure visibility. Even under heavy attack, they remain calm and make sharp decisions. However, despite its defensive stance to Zero, one Gundam stops moving completely. It's unclear if the engines needed cooling or if the pilot decided to focus solely on defense. Sha says to the Zero, one Gundam Year 2, soft. He fires up his engines and slams the shields together at high speed. Sha seems to have calculated the exact angle and speed needed to throw the enemy off balance. The Zero, one Gundam stumbles. The pilot quickly activates the thrusters to regain his position. But the white Gundam is already one step ahead. As the Zero, one Gundam tries to retaliate with a beam saber, Sha yells too slow. He lands a kick right on target. Just like a human, a mobile suit can use its limbs not only to hold weapons, but also as weapons themselves. This kind of tactic allows the pilot to attack without the delay of activating a weapon. The pilot of the Zero-1 Gundam chose to activate the beam saber, and that split-second decision cost him. Because of this short delay, Sha's attack lands cleanly. Sha's white Gundam lands the kick right on the chest, where the cockpit is. The cockpit must have taken a serious jolt. Even if it wasn't a fatal blow, it was definitely a solid blow to the pilot. Sha understands that a kick alone won't destroy his opponent, so he immediately follows up by slamming his shield into the Zero-1 Gundam's head. A shield is meant for defense, not as a weapon. But by swinging the hard shield at high speed, he turns it into a blunt instrument. Sha chooses to use equipment in unconventional ways to get the best possible result. Having no preconceived ideas about how to use tools is a mindset often chosen by ace pilots in the Gundam series. The Zero-1 Gundam takes damage to its head cover, but quickly tries to counterattack. If you look closely, the camera itself isn't damaged. The white Gundam has no cover over its camera. Maybe the cover was removed to cut costs, since protecting it would make the unit more expensive. Or maybe they managed to develop a camera unit strong enough to survive without additional protection. The Zero-1 Gundam then goes on the offensive, holding its beam saber with both arms. It would make sense for a human to hold a sword with both hands. Even when colliding with an enemy's blade, using both arms can help maintain balance and control. But Sha takes a different approach. He uses the beam saber with only one arm. Take a close look at the moment when the two sabers collide. Sha's saber slowly begins to slide toward the hilt of the opponent's weapon. Instead of trying to overwhelm his opponent with brute force, he chooses a position that allows him to press down on the enemy's weapon with less effort. Once Sha confirms that the Zero-1 Gundam has stopped moving, he activates a second beam saber. Eventually, the head of the Zero-1 Gundam is destroyed. The double saber fighting style was also used by Admiral Ray. The destruction of the Zero-1 Gundam results in a massive explosion. But the nature of the explosion seems a bit strange. It comes not from the chest where the engine is, but from the base of the head. The Zero-1 Gundam doesn't have head-mounted Balkan cannons, so it's unlikely that ammunition would have detonated. Could it be that a self-destruct mechanism was triggered for secrecy? The core fighter stored in the chest appears to be intact, so it's possible that its decoy system was activated as camouflage, allowing the pilot to escape. And so the battle of the Zero-1 Gundam comes to an end. Now, do you think that the pilot of the Zero-1 Gundam was Admiral Ray? As Dr. Flanagan says later, dodging beams fired at the speed of light is incredibly difficult for an ordinary person. That's certainly true. The pilot of the Zero-1 Gundam dodged Sha's beam 3 times in a row. This is probably no coincidence. While the truth is still unknown, it's clear that the pilot had extraordinary skills. It was a brief scene, but one that really made us feel the depth of the pilot's skill and tactical thinking. Thank you for watching to the end. See you in the next episode.